The affixing process is incredibly tedious, but it is one of the most effective ways of gaining stats in PSO2. There are a couple rules of affixing that we need to go over. The number one rule is that you can only affix other pieces of gear based on the amount of slots that they have. What that means is if you have a 6-slot bow, you can only use other weapons that are also 6-slot and above. Another thing to keep in mind is special ability factor. This makes the entire process that much easier, but currently in the North American version of the game only works on weapons. What the special ability factor means is that once you get a weapon to plus 35, it unlocks an ability. For example, the Infinite Corundum unlocks Alter Tyro, which gives me plus 30 HP and 20 ranged. One other rule is you always want to use multiple fodder during the upslotting process. While the percents change depending on how many slots you're trying to upslot towards, one of the things you'll wind up keeping in mind is that if you wind up using one fodder for everything, it'll wind up going down, but you wind up losing a free 10% just by using an additional fodder. So we'll go back and we'll choose a second one. As you can see, once we start selecting all of our fodders, you'll be able to see that we gain an additional 10% based on each affix. One thing to keep in mind is that you can actually increase the success rate of a weapon and or unit during the augmentation process by using things called augmentation aids plus 30s and plus 40s. If you're running low for whatever reason, even though you've gotten some during your level up process, especially if you're leveling up alts, you can go to the X Cube shop and exchange them for 20 X Cubes or 100 X Cubes for plus 30 and plus 40 respectively. So the way that we're going to wind up augmenting our base weapon is we're going to wind up using special ability factors from several different other weapons, as well as 2 additional fodder pieces to be able to make our final product. The special ability factors, or SAF, is whenever you go into the affixing process and you wind up seeing this little blue symbol next to an augment. For example, for my Gix Granas, I get Sentence Precision, which gives me 20 ranged and 4 PP. Now, every weapon has a special ability factor. One way to find out the augment factor or SAF on a weapon is by going into your inventory, going over to the weapon in question, going to confirm augment factor. Not only will it give you the augment factor name or SAF, but it'll also give you the success rate. So I'm leaving a link down to the wiki below. This way you guys can at least be able to research it yourselves. So as I said earlier in the video, you're gonna need to reaffix a lot of your pieces of gear. The reason being is because not only do you want to get to the plus 35 so you can use their special ability factor, but even those pieces also need to have 6 slots. Now, upslotting fodder will probably be the most heartbreaking thing that you will ever experience. Here, I'll show you in this next clip. Now that we finally got our fodder out of the way and each piece with the fixes that we want, for example, we're going to be using 3 Arc's Fevers in this, mainly because what we want to do is we want to be able to get the maximum amount of potential stats that we can get during this time. So now we're finally ready. We have all of our fodder to 6 slot, everything's plus 35, there's one more piece. Once we select all of our fodder, we're going to have one more option that appears on screen, and that option will be to use a support item. In this case, we're going to be using Affix Augment Ranged and PP. And now that we're done with the most frustrating process of getting all of our fodder up, getting them to 6 slot, plus 35ing them, which is using the enhancement process, we can finally choose our affixes. And in this case, we're going to be using Precision 4 that we got from the Nox grenade launcher, Ultra Tiro that we got from the Infinite Corundum, the Sentence Precision that we got from the Gix Granas, and then we're also going to be using Leopard Soul and Arc's Max. So there is a reason for this. Now, there'll be some discussion in the comments below versus Arc's Max and Modulator, but just to give you guys a little bit of my own opinion, the reason I affix Arc's Max to pieces of gear is because Arc's Fever is a lot easier to upslot versus buying or farming things like Modulator. The difference between Arc's Max and Modulator is literally 5 attack on each of the main stats that it gives you. And if you're feeling risky enough, you can even upslot with Arc's Fever which will give you an extra 5 PP, 5 dexterity, and 5 to the attack stats, which honestly is really worth it, especially if you're looking for PP. I can really only recommend going past 6 slots during boost weeks, which boost weeks can range anywhere between 5, 10 to 15% depending on the week. But since we're not doing that during this week, because I wanted to show you guys the actual pain versus how easy it is to affix during a boost week, let's finally get this done and finish this off with an augmentation aid plus 40 and hit yes. Now our bow is complete. Let's run the question is, if I had a weapon that I used during the augmentation process that has an SAF and the SAF failed, do I get that weapon back? Unfortunately, you do not. You would have to then upgrade another weapon to plus 35, upslot that as well, because you lost that entire SAF. Unfortunately, that's just how affixing works. But now I have a circuitry unit that I need to affix. We're gonna go over the process a little bit slower because units, much like weapons, act a little bit differently, mainly because we do not have augmentation factors or special ability factors. So first things first is I'm gonna go to the player shop, and if you guys have farmed this yourself, then you can skip this process entirely, but I'm gonna go over to units. I'm then going to hit number of augments, and I'm going to select 5. And in this case, I'm looking for 2 other pieces that have Arc's Fever. I'm going to hit confirm, then I'm gonna search by price. Now I'm going to then find 2 other pieces that have the augments that I'm looking for. In this case, I'm going to buy them. That makes it that I have 2 of the 5 fodder needed to be able to reaffix this piece of gear. Now the next thing I'm going to be looking for is Grand Soul. Same thing I did before, is I'm going to search by the number of augments under units, type in Grand Soul in the augment search settings, and search by price. Luckily, again, we only needed 2 other Grand Souls because our base piece already has it. Now we need 1 more piece because we're already using 4 other fodder that has casting 3. Now that we have all 5 of our fodder, we're going to go over to our unit, we're going to hit yes, and we're going to select all 5 of our fodder with the souls and abilities that we had wanted. Again, much like what we did with our weapon, we're going to hit affix augment, technique, and PP in this case, and we're going to begin selecting the augments that we want. So the big reason why we want 3 of each affix is because of how it reacts during the augmenting process. If you only have 2 souls, for example, with Grand Souls, it reduces the success rate down to 50%. However, if you use 3 souls, it increases the success rate all the way up to 80%. Now, once you have all your fodder and you're finally done with the affixing process, you can either use a 30% or 40% depending on how risky you are, and finally be done. Again, the success rates will depend on whether or not you're upslotting, so keep that in mind whenever you begin to use augmentation aids plus 40s or plus 30s, and then also during boost weeks. Couple of rules of thumb: if you're going to be affixing anything, especially on a unit, you want multiple copies of that particular item. For example, if you're using any souls of any kinds, you want 3 of those souls, and if you're using castings, you want 3 of those castings. I'll leave a link down in the description below to an affixing tool that I personally use to be able to help me guide myself through this process. One thing I didn't go over is the inclusion of Arcsmax and other recipes throughout the affixing process. To use Arcsmax as an example, to gain the maximum amount of success rate, you would need 3 Arc's Fevers, which is an entirely different augment, in order to obtain Arcsmax at the highest success rate. I'll be going over recipes for augmenting in another video in the future. Things like Allay's The Soul and Astro Soul being the ones that we currently have available, but I'll be waiting for more to release in the North American version, so this way I can get it all in one video as opposed to many. But if you're curious about that now, please use the simulator tools that I linked down in the description below, or visit me on my live stream over at twitch.tv/mark, link in the description as well. So with that, I think we're done, and I honestly hope that this video helped you in any sort of way. If it did, leave a comment down in the description below, and if you guys feel that there are some things that I can touch on, feel free to go ahead and leave that as well. There are a lot of things when it comes to the augmenting or affixing process that I still did not go over. A lot of reasons that I didn't go over it is because it's not available in the North American version of the game. Hopefully it will be soon, and there will be an updated video coming out with the additions to that process. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay awesome, stay beautiful. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.